This is Ben Woods interviewing for the Oklahoma Living Legends. We're in Pawnee, Oklahoma. The date is September the 15th, 1971. We're in the First Baptist Church at Pawnee. I'm visiting with Mr. Kenneth Kelly, who's a farmer and rancher in the Pawnee area, whose father and mother made the run of the Cherokee Strip and were pioneers of this area. Mr. Kelly, to begin with, I wonder if you could tell me the names of your parents and where they were from and the circumstances that led them to make the Cherokee Strip run.
My parents come into the country with their parents when he was a young boy, and they were married here in Pawnee. My mother's name was Mary Cotton, you got it going on?
Go ahead.
Mary Endicott, and they were married. I don't know what year it was, but they were born 9 children in their family. And how they raised those kids today, I don't know. But back in those days, the time was rough and hard. And my dad, he came into Oklahoma here in the year way back there doing the run of the Cherokee Strip opening. And he led the cow behind the wagon and walked all the way from Old Lake, Kansas, here to Pawnee. Because the rest of the kids had to ride in the wagon. That's the way they made the run.
Do you recall any of the stories dealing with the run that your father may have told you?
No, I can't remember any of the stories that he had said, but I remember him tell me a time or two that it was rough way down here, and it rained on him, and the trip was very rough, but he had to walk that distance, and his feet got mighty sore. I'll tell you that one thing for sure.
What do you think, what caused them to decide to come into this country?
They were hunting for new adventure, and they came in from Kansas. They were hunting for new adventure just like everybody else were, in new frontier time.
You were born in 1918, is that right?
That's right. I was born May the 16th, 1918. I was the 9th child. There were 2 of us dead. There were born 11 children, and I was the 9th one living. All 9 of us children are living today, and most of us now are living around Pawnee, except one sister. She lives in California.
What are the first recollections you have of Pawnee?
We lived in the country, and I think about the first time I came to town, I can't remember when I was about 5 years old. There were a lot of livery stables here in Pawnee, and a lot of buggies, a lot of wagons, but very few cars. And I was just about scared to death, I'll tell you that one thing for sure, because I didn't see so many people in all my life, much going on. Because we lived in the country, like I said, and I didn't know hardly what things were going to happen.
What were the principal events in Pawnee then? That would be in the early 20s.
Well, there was a lot of saloons here in Pawnee. I remember my dad said, I forgot how many there were, but there were 8 or 10 or 12 saloons here in Pawnee. And there was a lot of hay and farm products coming into town, parked along the street sides, and the people were selling the farm products, and there was a lot of produce houses, and everybody came to town then to sell their produce, which that's the only place they had to sell it.
Where would they sell? Off the wagons?
Yes, they sold them off the wagon and out on the streets to a lot of city buyers. They had about back in those times. A lot of city people had cows in town, chickens in town. So they came down and bought the produce and feed the cows, the chickens, the milk the cows here in town, so they wouldn't have to buy milk and eggs.
During the 1920s, what was the principal event that you can think of that happened during that period of time, or principal events?
Oh, the principal events here, gosh, I can't remember that part of it. Though it seemed like I don't know. I can't remember that much about that part of it. I'll have to pass that.
Uh-huh. Do you recall did you know Pawnee Bill?
Yes, I knew Pawnee Bill.
Tell us something about him.
Pawnee Bill, I was just a small boy because he died in 1942. But I met Pawnee Bill quite often myself. My dad myself, he played pitch and cards with Pawnee Bill. He went up to his home. Pawnee Bill invited my dad up to his home, played cards with him a lot of evenings. I've been up on his ranch several times, been out to his old towns. I never have seen any of his shows, but he was quite a man. Everybody respected him, and right today the people respected him. And they got a grand museum up here for him right today. They've built quite an addition up there, a new museum, and Pawnee Bill was a great Indian leader. He was interpreter, you know, for the Indians, and the Indians all thought a lot of him.
He was quite a showman, obviously. Can you think of any examples in his later life, which was a period that you knew him, that might give us a key to his showmanship ability?
Well, it seemed like he was a person that everybody kind of liked. He was a person that was easy to get acquainted to. He was a person that you just walk up to and shake his hand, and he was just glad to talk to you. I don't make a difference what business you were in or how poor you were or what you were. He was a person that you can just take over and just make it right in your home. And he was a great showman in with Buffalo Bill. He's a great attraction, and he went to Far East shows, and he's just all around good showman.
During the 30s, now you were in your latter teens and in your 20s during the 30s. What events can you think about during that period? This was the Depression period preceding World War.
I was in high school during the 30s, and one time I can remember there, I was driving a little car, a Model A Ford, town back and forth to school since we lived in the country, and I drove down to town and get some gasoline. I didn't have no money, I was broke, but a fellow down there named Gene Sharnick, he ran a little service station. He had a liver stable and a blacksmith shop, all combination there. I drove in there, I told Mr. Sharnick, I said, Mr. Sharnick, I need 2 gallons of gas. But I said, I don't have no money. He said, well, son, he said, you don't have no money. He said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I'm going to give you 2 gallons of gas, but in the morning you bring me 2 rabbits. So that's the way we got along in those Depression days, is so things like that. So that was one of the events there I could always remember on that part right there. Next morning I brought him in 2 patties rabbits you could ever shake a stick at, because you always get good rabbits back in them days.
During these days, what were you raising on the farm?
We was raising chickens, hogs, cattle, milked the cows, sold the cream, you know. A lot of produce was sold back in those days. I can remember, too, also back in those days when the government shot the cattle. You know, we had a big drought here that time, and the government come in and shot these cattle and gave them farmers $8 and $10 a head. And during this time, the meat was for yours for the asking if you wanted it. I remember when we were going out there where they shooting these cattle, there was a big lined up of people there to get this meat. You had to skin these beasts right there on the land and leave the hide, because the rancher got the hides. They give $8 a head and $10 a head for these cattle, but you get the meat for your asking. And there was plenty of people there to get the meat. I can tell you that one thing for sure. They shot these cattle because there wasn't no grass, there wasn't no water, there wasn't no food to winter these cattle, and there wasn't anywhere else you can ship in. So they figured they had to dispose of them to keep them from starving to death.
What all were you raising?
We raised on a farm. We raised wheat at that time, you know. We raised cattle. We raised oats. We raised cotton. Done anything to try to make a living. Those times were hard, but you know, at this day we got along. A lot of them got up and pulled out, but the people that stayed here, I think, they got great wealth for staying.
What has been your principal activity since you were after you grew up? I mean, farming has been one. Have you had any other activities?
Farming and ranching been most of my activity. I've been in the machinery business for 2 years. My brother Warren down in Stillwater, but I couldn't get the ranching out of my mind. I love cattle. I like cattle. Me and my brother Floyd have a big ranch up in North Fairfax now, and right to this day, that's what we set our mind to, is raising cattle. And that's one of the main projects we are looking forward to today, is raising cattle and beef.
What does the outlook look like up here for that now?
Beef raising business, this community out here is one of the main projects. It's the main industry for this Pawnee County. It's a cattle country. It looks good. There's awful good grass. Cattle does awful good in this area. We depend wholly on the rainfalls, and we do not irrigate any. And So this is one of the best beef raising countries in the United States.
Are you active in any of the farm professional organizations or any civic organizations?
I've been president of the Pawnee County Cattleman Association for 3 years. I'm now on advisory council on the Oklahoma Cattleman Association. I've been active in the community affairs. I've been with the Chamber of Commerce for right at 5 years. I've been president of the Chamber of Commerce for 1 year. Now I am the chairman of the rural water board, and I am also the Democrat chairman of Pawnee County.
Why don't you talk about some of the people who have come out of Pawnee County, and you mentioned your Democratic chairman in politics. I mean, you have the Speaker of the House, for instance, in Pawnee County. I believe it's Pawnee County, Merrimack. And let's talk about some of these individuals.
We have the Speaker of the House, RexPrivet. I think most of you can remember or know now. He has been a very good representative for ours. I think this is his 12th year. He's been Speaker of the House longer than anybody in the state capitol. And we have also from Pawnee, we've been elected senators from Pawnee, Senator Raymond Horn I know of, and also there have been other state officials also been elected from Pawnee. I can't not remember right now. I think Joe O. Ferguson one time ran for governor from Pawnee on a Republican ticket. Very good friend of mine. He's a newspaper man, but he got defeated that year because I can't remember who defeated him. Johnson Murray. Johnson Murray beat him that year on the Democrat ticket. And there have been other people I know that have been very active from Pawnee, went to state offices at this time.
You want to discuss individually? Why don't you tell us something about RexPrivet as an individual?
RexPrivet is a very, very personal friend of mine. He is a rancher out here by Merrimack. He has grown up in this area. His folks has been old-time ranchers and are very good people. And he is one of the respected guys in the nation, in the state of Oklahoma. He is a statesman, and he's the type of person that you can get right on to him and talk to him. And he has been very, very active in his public relations, also in his state house work, and has been a very, very good Speaker of the House.
Tell about some of the things that happened in Pawnee while you were president of the Chamber of Commerce in that area. What were your principal projects during this period?
We have made quite an accomplishment in Pawnee. In the time of I was president of the Pawnee Chamber of Commerce, and we have built the Pawnee Bill Museum up quite a little bit. In other words, we have expanded that about $300,000 worth of money, but the state has issued to us to expand this as a state park. We also had come in with a factory out here of Emma Mill, the hosiery factory, which employs about 300 men and women at this day. I forget how many millions of hoses that they have put out, but they've put out about 200,000 a week. And they have shipped these hoses all over the factory, the different places over the United States.
Can you think of, what do you feel is the most important thing that has happened to Pawnee or to this area as long as you remember, the most important single event?
But the most important single event of this area since I can remember, of course, is the water situation in this country. I remember one time when we used to drink the water out of the old Black Bear Creek down here, and it was so stinking you couldn't hardly drink the thing. So we actually went together, all of us did, and built a beautiful lake up north of Pawnee, which we get our water situation from now. And that's one of the big events, projects I think that we as Pawnee could ever think of having. And we built this thing back right after the Depression days, too.
What do you think is the most tragic event or the biggest disaster that has happened in Pawnee as long as you've been here?
Tragic event, I can't recall my mind that real quick of that project. That's one of the things when Pawnee Bill, myself, when he had his wife, his wife got killed in the car wreck coming from Tulsa one evening when they had a big 50th golden wedding anniversary. And everybody was sick over that Bill because everybody loved Pawnee Bill and his wife. And 2 or 3 years later, Pawnee died over that project too, because he never his life again after he lost his wife.
What do you think about the future of Pawnee?
Future Pawnee is growing strong. I think one of these days we're going to have a bigger Pawnee, because we got a factory here, we got a grand museum here, and it is growing, and it's expanding out, and we're getting new housing industries, and we're also coming up more projects all the time for Pawnee.
Do you have any other thoughts that, in your experience there, that maybe I ought to have asked you about? That, not having a questionnaire or anything, I may have missed some important area of your experience.
Seems like you have covered most of all my thinking here on this part of it.
Why don't you just go down those notes and anything that...
Yes, everything.
Do you? You think it's everything?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes, everything.
Ask everything you know.
Yeah, sure it is.
Uh-huh. Well, this has been an interview with Mr. Kenneth Kelly, and we certainly appreciate it. Made in Pawnee on September 15th, 1971.